You guys know you can do anything when you put your mind to it. When you're playing on a Wendy's playmat at a regional, main decking 2 copies of Bristo Butcher, 3 copies of Respect Play, 3 copies of Gift of Greed, and 3 Graceful Tear, that you've really definitely reached the high point in your life. And you definitely enjoy the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you're doing this to yourself. Alright, enjoy my tournament report on the Meme Dream Turbo 2.0. Alright, what's up YouTube? MCool40 here. We are going to be doing the profile and report for the Meme Dream deck. Now, for those of you that weren't on the Twitch stream last Sunday, I didn't really make a video discussing this, but we let the stream build my deck for the regional this weekend, and we had one issue that led to 20 cards not being delivered for the deck because the order didn't come in until Saturday after I left, and I had ordered on Monday. Gotta love slow delivery. But I contacted a few people and we got substitutes put into the deck. So this is basically what we came up with. We had donation incentives to decide which cards went into the deck. And then we played 9 rounds in Michigan. We ended up going 2-7, which is quite the amazing feat when you actually start to see what is in the deck and so forth. But I'll go into my matches after that because I think it's more important to see the list and appreciate that this deck actually did as well as it did. So this is 60 cards. So special thanks to everyone that put in towards this project. Fox, St. Maddox, of course, and a few other people that I can't remember off the top of my head. You guys are the real MVPs for getting me to play this deck and being down at table 500. Truly a fun time. So this is the clusterfuck that we call the Meme Dream Machine. 1 Tainted Wisdom. Every person that I played this on had to read this card, and then yeah. This thing killed someone, which is pretty spectacular when you think of this old card. God, this thing's from Metal Raiders. But I can go like this, shift into defense mode, and I can shuffle my deck. I had one opponent where I shifted it to defense mode and shuffled my deck, and it was a good time. 1 Infernity Necromancer. This was actually supposed to be an Infernity Archfiend. I actually just don't own that card for some reason. We looked through a majority of everything. But for the most part, 1 Necromancer with no targets, 1/3 Stage Review Bell with no other way to get to this beautiful, beautiful thing. That's first 3 cards. 1 Parasite. This was supposed to be 3 in the main deck. For no reason whatsoever. We had one interesting ruling reaction that we had to ask the judges about. Parasite in the opponent's deck with Convulsion of Nature. The Parasite will go face down on the deck when the deck rotates. And then, to top things off, this guy will actually still trigger, because this card will go into your opponent's deck, and it doesn't specify that it has to be face up when drawn. This actually combos with the Insect Barrier in my deck. I actually didn't realize that when this thing is on the opponent's field, all their monsters are insect types. I feel like watching the original episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Should have taught me that, but in 2017, oh dude, I had my round 9 opponent take a picture of Parasite, and Convulsion of Nature, and his quote was, "I've never thought of a combo this awesome," and he took a picture of the cards. Fun times. Kid's not gonna want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore after he realizes it doesn't happen all that often. 3 copies of Bunny Blast, because Ethan thought that it would be a really smart idea to put 3 Bunny Blasts in my deck with no exceeds for them to go into, because, and I quote, "LOL, it's a girl bunny, and I hope you lose," says the guy that put shitty Gift of Greeds in my deck. 2 copies of Bubonic Vermin. So this card is actually just trash, but if you have an opponent that draws really bad and you flip this and bring out another copy of it, and that copy survives, It's an earth monster that lets you make Mrs. Radiant. So you get some next level synergy that I didn't actually think was going to happen. I won a game because we bubonic vermin into bubonic vermin, and then next turn Bunny blasted into a stupid Borbo to attack directly. I actually didn't think that would ever happen. I didn't think drawing the cute little Hamtaro creature would be all that good. One copy of Goblinberg because people like torturing me and putting really bad monsters in my deck. This card was absolute trash. I didn't use its effect because, well, we used the effect once, but what we brought out wasn't really worth using. The good thing was this is another monster that lets me make Mrs. Radiant. Did I mention that Mrs. Radiant's really good? 2 Bristow Butchers. Every time I drew this card, for those of you that don't know what Bristow Butcher does, it's an 1800, but since this is the meme dream deck, when I inflict damage to my opponent draws 2 cards. Thank you, Ethan, for putting this beautiful thing in my deck. When my opponent has a Beta the Magnet Warrior on the field in attack mode, and my only way to get over it is by summoning Bristow Butcher, I would rather scoop than let my opponent draw 2 cards. Instead of summoning this, I set Bubonic Vermin, because it was a better play. God, I never thought I would say that. 2 Grass Clown, 1 Ryukushin Clown. It was supposed to be 3 Grass Clown, but we just couldn't find the 3rd Grass Clown and it didn't come in time. So we substituted it with Ryukushin Clown. Ryukushin Clown was just infinitely worse than Dream Clown. This card actually came up. When this thing is summoned, it has to switch position of an opponent's monster, which lets you blink something to defense mode and attack over it. Grass Clown, on the other hand, this thing has to switch from defense mode to attack mode, and we were never doing that. This card has no synergy with Mrs. Radiant, sadly. We did get hand traps because people were very gracious. I don't know what the Takum Tumborg effect has to do with anything, but the amount of times I drew Ash Blossom and the amount of times that my opponent had desires in a 9-round tournament, I think this happened 5 to 6 times, which was actually way more than it should have came up. There was one game that I drew double Ash Blossom Ogre, and surprise, I actually won that game. I guess having hand traps and normal summonable monsters are really good. We got 2 golds and 2 silvers. This engine was actually really helpful for whoever decided to opt for this in the deck. Being able to set this and float into this when the opponent destroyed something actually gave me a lot of synergy against Blue Eyes. We didn't really win any games against Blue Eyes because beaters are beaters, but you know, that's a story for when we get into the match part of this. And then 1 Ancient Gear Gadget. I had to read this thing. This card's actually pretty good. Being able to not let your opponent do anything is pretty good. Ancient Gear Wyvern search for Gadget, and then 2 copies of Gearhound. Being able to inflict 600 to the opponent was actually pretty crucial, though I wish this thing was just 1600. We do have the Ancient Gear Fusion here. We never resolved it once. I'm pretty sure if I made that I would have won. But there was just never a scenario where we drew the 4 of these. The closest I got was when I had 3 of these. But it was all downhill because the opponent was playing Blue Eyes. You pretty much just died to that deck. 1 copy Reinforcement of the Army. 1 Final Destiny. I drew this card once, going second, and my opponent made Omega and made me want to shoot myself in the leg. I love not being able to discard and blow up the field. We really lost that game. It was pretty bad. 3 copies of Convulsion of Nature. This card is actually OP. We had 2 games come up where we convulsioned with Archfiend's Oath. There was 1 game where I played Archfiend's Oath called Convulsion of Nature and actually got to add it to my hand. If you understand how amazing that is. In a 60-card deck, on top decking, paying 500 life points, seems pretty good to me. But Convulsion of Nature is for the memes. This card flips over both players' decks. If there are 2 copies of Convulsion of Nature on the field, the decks do not flip face down. Contrary to popular belief, we got that judge call in again, because a judge ruled with my opponent saying that the deck will reverse if I have 2 of these on the field, but that's not the case. The deck cannot respectively flip again because it's already upside down. So there's that. 3 Black Snake Syndrome. Woohoo! So this is the 1 card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you can still tie with. And that leads to some very confusing scenarios. So for those of you that don't know, the damage dealt by Dark Snake Syndrome is simultaneous to both players. Inflict direct damage to both you and your opponent during each of your standby phases. The first damage starts at 200 and then doubles. So it'll go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and then 64. Overall, only really good for direct damage. That's what we call it. Alright, 2 copies of Inferno Tempest. First off, not happy that the Blue Eyes player beat me. What was it? Round 6, because I should have won that. He made Dark Matter, attacked into Inferno Tempest. Tempest resolved. But for some reason, he still had 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in hand. And we had a Borbo with a Whiptail on it attacking directly. Every turn, the opponent had no resources. The opponent ends up turboing into a trade-in, and then into his quote-unquote last return of the Dragon Lords, because Desires removed 2 of them. And we lost, just like you think we did, because we don't have good reactive traps. Every Blue Eyes player that I dropped this on, which was 2 of them, both of them had no idea that this card actually existed in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm actually kind of shocked, but this is from the first movie pack for a lot of people that don't know about this. The surprise factor was very real for this. I'm actually kind of surprised that we got to resolve this, but there was a lot of Blue Eyes players done in the X4 bracket. Next up, 3-Pot of Generosity. I mean, we were always trying to shuffle a card back into our deck to try to show the opponent some love. God, there's no thing I can say about that card. 1 copy of Insect Barrier. If we do resolve Parasite by giving it to our opponent, if we have Insect Barrier face up on the field, I can't even do this straightly. Your opponent's insect monsters cannot declare an attack as long as this card's face up on the field. There's not a single goddamn competitive insect monster in the current game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And resolving a Parasite is the worst. Limit removal. Having a gadget that can go to 3,400 was actually really important. And you guys might not know this, but if you have a gadget on the field with Mrs. Radiant, it'll double the 1,700 that's at 2,200 to 4,400, and then you can kill your opponent, because that's actually just how that works. 1 board wipe that's not named Final Destiny. This got removed off of Desires once. Speaking of Desires, 1 Desires. 60 card deck, we got a turbo to our resources. We drew this more than I should have. I drew this at least 4 times off of my opening hands. 3 copies of Graceful Tear. Add a card in your hand to your opponent's hand, and then gain 2,000 life points. There was 1 game I was clearly losing, so we activated Graceful Tear and gave our opponent the 3rd form of Yubel as an act of friendship to not kill me on the next turn, but I still died. It was, we were really hoping. Triple Respect play. During each player's respective turns, they show each other their hands. My round 8 opponent actually kind of got cocky with me when I was like, I flipped this, I'm like, alright, show me your hand. And then he asked me if I was allowed to read his cards in his hand, because I was looking at his Delta the Magnet Warrior, trying to figure out what his stuff does. And he got to the point with me to where we almost had to call a judge to verify that I can read the cards in his hand that are in plain view that I can read because of respect play. Don't know which scenario that comes up, maybe when you're at the 1-7 table, but you know, these interactions do happen. Triple Gift of Greed. I had a laugh with my, I think it was round 4 opponent. I was clearly losing the game, and I was like, dude, let me help you out there. I was like, don't Cosmic my face down. And my opponent decided to Cosmic it. You'll never understand the true value of a card until you get your Gift of Greed Cosmic Cycloned. It feels good. 1 Castle Wall. Sometimes we just need to boost the defense on Parasite. 1 copy of Ordeal of the Traveler. This card was actually bonkers. Had we actually been drawing things that weren't monsters consistently, Ordeal of the Traveler would have been way better than it actually was. This card kind of sucks with Convulsion in Nature, because your opponent will typically know what you have in your hand. God, is this fucking 2007? 2004 Yu-Gi-Oh? Who knew that Convulsion in Nature with Ordeal? Yeah, my 12-year-old self knew that that wouldn't work. Ugh. Still good. I stunted 1 guy with Ordeal of the Traveler. I think it was my round 9 opponent. He attacked into me wrong and got punished because I bounced his Ultimate Conductor back to his hand. 1 Call of the Haunted and 2 Solemn Strike bring this deck profile on the main deck home. Extra deck here. 2 of the Ultimate Megazord. We didn't actually get to make this. Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. This should have been a Zubababa General. I would have loved to have had this be a Zubababa General, but because we didn't have that, we Rast put this in. 1 Mrs. Radiant. This card was crazy good. I'm actually so happy. Like, when I was looking at this and was talking about the combos initially, I didn't actually think that this card was going to be as good as it actually was, but this really got me there. 1 Decode Talker, didn't make this at all. 2 Firewall Dragon. There was one scenario that we could have made Firewall, but I don't actually think that it was the proper play, and I just left the 4 monsters on the field. There were scenarios where this could have been really good, but it didn't actually end up happening. And then we're playing 3 other copies of Decode Talker called Gagigigago. Definitely much harder stipulations to make this thing, 3 level 4 monsters. We were never doing that. And then 1 Borbo, 1 Tiger Mortar, and 1 Chakanine. Thank you to who put these in the main deck. You were the real MVP. We really needed these cards. This definitely made situations a lot better, made the Bunny Blast a lot better as well. Ethan decided to put a prize card in my deck and put Giant Hand in here. I actually resolved this on a search off of, I believe it was Delta, the Magnet Warrior. Actually, summon this once, it actually helped. Yugioh X, I really wish that that stupid Chimera was a level 4, not a level 3. Because I could have resolved Yugioh and had a much better matchup against Rogue than I probably should have. But that's the 15 card extra deck. Side deck, we ended up signing out 12 cards every game, thank God. 2 DD Crows, actually I never drew this. There were a few scenarios that this might have been actually good. 1 Time Wizard, drew it once, summoned it, used the effect, Time Wizard killed itself. 1 Throwblade, and 1 Whiptail. I seen the Whiptail more than I seen the Throwblade, only because I milled this off of the 1 copy of Grass, and we got it back off of the Tiger Mortar. So there's that. 1 copy of Barrage. I actually didn't draw this. It was actually kind of sad. 1 copy of Insect Barrier. Citing out cards like Gift of Greed for Insect Barrier was actually a good call. I still cried when I drew it though. 1 Castle Wall. Still better than Gift of Greed. 3 Pyro Clock of Destiny. I was told to put these in the side deck with the intent that in case I went into time to try to accelerate the turn count. That's actually not how that scenario works. That's the official ruling that we were given from our regional. Pyro Clock of Destiny does not accelerate the 0, 1, 2, 3 clock in end of match time. And then 3 Zodiac combo, in case we need to put back our zoo monsters, quote unquote. So there is the main extra inside. Alright, so as for the overall matchups, round 1 and round 2 were Pendulum Magicians. That's a no-go zone for this deck. It doesn't matter how many cards you're giving your opponent. There's just no combo ability there. You're just going to have a really bad time. Round 3 we played against a Dark Magician deck. Game 1 we bricked pretty bad actually. Game 2 we ended up winning because of Borbo, Bunny Blast, Mrs. Radiant attacking directly. Game 3 my opponent resolved Twin Twister and Heavy Duster Storm on my Convulsion of Natures because the Dark Magic Circle had stacked the Wind Witch on the top. We were actually going to win that game. It was going to be our first win, but we ended up losing both of our Convulsions, and then we lost Crystal Wing from there. Round 4 we lost to Trickstars. I'm actually very surprised that a Trickstar player opted to not drop out round 4 being 0-3, but you do you. Round 5 was against Blue Eyes. We should have won that because of the Infernal Tempest. Didn't expect my opponent to have all the Blue Eyes in hand, but it's what you get when you get cocky. Round 6 was against Satellar Knights. We drew game 1, and then game 2 shuffled the Parasite into my opponent's deck with Convulsion active. Called over a judge to shuffle the Parasite into the deck. shuffled the deck. The Parasite was at the bottom, but because of Convulsion of Nature, the deck flipped face up. My opponent drew the Parasite on the next turn, and I ended up winning the match because of time. Round 7 was against Blue Eyes. You guys know how that no-fly zone goes. Round 8 was against Magnet Warriors. That was pretty stupid. And then round 9 was against a True Dinosaur player. He had diagrams and everything else. He was 1 win, 2 draws, so he had 5 points. But he just opened up really bricky. It was actually, I opened up Ash Blossom on him. Just kind of stunned his advances. Attacked over Raptor with Gear Gigant X because we opened gold into silver. And we just kind of started getting there. It was actually really nice watching the deck actually do what the deck was meant to do. Overall, outside of the matchups, it's kind of nice to take the challenge and make sure that you're still kind of decent at the game with what you're given. It definitely proves that you can take anything to a regional and get some wins with it. Sometimes maybe, sometimes maybe never. You'd be surprised at the amount of people that don't drop at the back tables either. Someone was joking with me. They're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't get a no-show." He was like X-3, and then all my opponents, I'm 1-6 over here, and my opponents are still showing up. I'm still perplexed to how that works, but some people just want to play the game. Hope you guys enjoy the Wendy's mat too. So that's all I've got to say for this. I will do this again at some point, not for a while. Like I said, thanks for everyone that contributed to this. It was a lot of fun. I don't know what else to really say about this. I so much fucking hate the Gift of Greed and Respect play. God, when people really want to make it a meme dream deck, they really do it. I didn't actually know that some of these cards existed and were so bad. Shout out to the judges, though. You guys are the real MVPs. To the 5 judge appeals that I had to make because of Convulsion of Nature and some interaction. You the real MVP. And to the one floor judge that was always knew I was in this section, ready to lend me an assisting hand with shuffling the opponent's deck because of Convulsion of Nature. Feels good. Alright guys, that's all I've got. Later. The ride never ends, guys. Make sure you enable those notifications to get the latest videos that are being posted on this channel. Make sure you guys check out VanCole40 for my Cardfight Vanguard channel. And join me and House of Champions on the Zodiac Duelist TV Twitch stream. We'll be interacting with our audiences. And please check out No Limit Gaming and LGTCG.com for the cheapest trading cards on the market. Thanks for watching, guys, and please have a good day.